Paterson. On this episode of Fintech Finance, we're looking into the world of customer experience and at how digital transformation is affecting this. For this, we visit Pitney Bowes, MetroBank and Nationwide. So I went to speak with Kieran Kilmartin from Pitney Bowes to find out what he thinks some of the banks are currently doing right when it comes to customer experience, but also what they could do to improve.
I think all banks, are looking to technology to improve, the customer experience. We have a new generation of bankers who are looking to, use different channels. So I think that's a key focus for banks, is looking at those channels and understanding how, when, why individuals want to, do their banking. Things such as obviously social media, video, those sorts of things now we're seeing coming to the fore. In particular, video is something we've focused on here at Pitney Bowes, to help enhance the customer experience, but also to help banks with their costs and insurance companies with their costs. So, one of the key challenges for banks is they have huge call centres, and these call centres cost a lot of money. Some of them, the common questions of call centres can be easily answered through video, for instance. So me understanding your data and being able to provide you with a personal interactive video to solve that problem. So the example might be, you've got an insurance policy with your bank, and I don't think anybody ever reads the insurance policy. But if someone were to explain it to you and explain in detail your particular insurance policy, that might be very useful and actually will save you some issues going forward. The fact that you didn't realise you were uninsured for a particular event, for instance. So I think video is a very compelling medium. It's a way of getting a message across very quickly, and it's something banks and insurance companies are turning to at the moment to engage with their customers. So you can let's say use other technologies. So we do use chat boxes, for instance, to help you answer questions, just as you see with the Amazon applications and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think using a combination of those technologies is always going to improve the customer experience. But more importantly, for you and I, the most precious thing we have is time. And the fact that you might spend hours trying to do something in a branch and you can do it when you want through your sort of Amazon Echo Dot is fantastic. So those are sort of technologies you'll see banks starting to use. The technology today can do everything, to be honest, that an individual can do, and a lot quicker. So, to take out a mortgage, you're going to have to go through a number of different financial checks and, ensuring you are who you say are, etc. A lot of that just can be automated. So, in the future, you won't necessarily have to have the person there. I think it's choice. It gives people choice. Some of us like paper, some of us like human interaction. You can do that. You receive a statement, you can go to a branch. But, a lot of us, want to do things our own way. We want to do our banking when and where and how we want to. And I think that's it. You've got that, choice of a physical or a digital environment. And so, for us, it's all about sort of making better use of our time. For some people, their time is better spent talking to someone at a bank. For others, it's like I can do something on my Facebook, on my mobile phone in seconds, and I'm done. So I think the important thing is choice of channels. I think, the ambitions for banks is to deliver that experience which is totally frictionless.
I went to speak with Martin Atkinson to hear about some of the new restrictions coming in can be ensured to have a positive effect and not negatively impact the customer experience.
I think we surfaced before, we've got PSD2, GDPR, CMA, open banking, the 4th ML directive. I suppose I'd position first and foremost that MetroBank supports the intent behind the regulation, because fundamentally the regulators are trying to increase security, they're trying to promote competition and switching between banks, and also they're trying to demonstrate to customers the value that they hold intrinsically within their own data. So what we do firstly is we make sure that we're going to be regulatory compliant. So we work with the regulators, we make sure that our internal interpretation of the regulations is within the spirit of what the outcomes are trying to be achieved, and we check back through industry bodies to make sure that we're consistent in our thinking with other banks. And then once we've got that and we understand the directional flow of the regulation, we then almost hand that off to our customer experience and UX team, and those guys then work with the regulatory spirit but make sure that they're working through the optimal experience, whether that's through the mobile app, whether that's through our stores, or whether it's through our telephony, because it's really important that as banks that we maintain the regulatory accountability, but we absolutely wedded to making sure that it's an optimal experience, and now having an in-house design team gives us unfettered access into how we can build those great services and experiences. For us, we see regulation now as an opportunity. So yes, PSD2 is mandating that we expose certain products and certain services, but actually it offers a real opportunity for us to build new relationships or new economic value chains. And therefore, whilst the driver is regulation, we honestly think that with the capability that we've built, we can seize this as a strategic opportunity for the bank.
I sent Lea Jakobiak to speak with Matt Cox from Nationwide to hear about how they're trying to stay on top of the customer service game.
They really are exciting times. There's so many opportunities that we've got to make sure we can meet our members' needs better. I think, Nationwide's perspective on this, we have to do that in a way that balances the needs of all of our members, and they all have different choices, from younger life stages to older families, and they all want to interact with Nationwide in a different way. We need to make sure that we can take all of those different technologies but provide our members with the choice so that they can interact in their method of choice. So if I take, for example, younger life stages that may choose to engage in social media, then we need to respond, and we have responded by providing 24/7 social media teams that will interact with them through Twitter, through Facebook, whenever they choose. But it doesn't mean that we don't allow our customers to interact through email, through web chat, through voice and through video. What technology has done, in my view, is provide an increased range of choices so that our members get what they want in the method of their choosing and in the place of their choosing. So I think our perspective is take all of that really good stuff, but do it in a way that makes members' lives easier.
We were interested to hear how the customer service market is evolving and what hurdles there are to overcome.
I think, well, firstly, GDPR is going to be a long journey. And we're hoping every organisation will be compliant by 2018. But clearly, there are some organisations which are very complex, and it will be a journey that they'll be on for some years, I think. With regard to consumers, I think now clearly sort of these sorts of regulations make more transparent maybe some of the challenges and some of the opportunities people have with data. And therefore, I think all of us will be a little bit more precious around our data. Maybe we've just maybe blindly trusted organisations historically, but now it's more in our hands, and that's the whole idea of GDPR. GDPR is, in my view, it's gone from previous regulations where you're looking to perhaps avoid fines and not get away with things, but essentially avoid fines, to now where an organisation has to effect a cultural change to be more proactive around the privacy of its data. Now that's really, really important, and I think those banks that do it very well will be very successful. Now, the most important thing we want from a bank is security. I want to know that my funds are with you and you're secure. So if your bank is hacked or you've got huge fines, then I could potentially lose my money. So that's really important. So those organisations who are, if you will, outed by GDPR, they face huge reputational damage, and therefore you and I are going, well, should I really be with this bank? And that might cause you or I to change our bank. Secondly, the 1998 Data Protection Act we know is way out of date, so we have to have something new. And what is clear is that the government in place will most likely sort of look to take on European laws. That's already been stated. So why would you look to recreate something that's already there in place? So we'll have something like GDPR within the UK anyway. I mean, there's two things. One is making it customer-centric. I think that's incredibly important. Secondly, I would design it for privacy, and so think of it from the outset. So one of the actual principles of GDPR is privacy by design. So all new systems have to have privacy by design. So that would be a key aspect of my bank, would be that it's customer focused, it's based around the wants and needs of the segment I'm targeting, but also then I'm designing everything around the privacy of the customer. Existing systems don't have that designed in. Okay, so over time, you will have to design that into your new systems. Banks have a myriad of different systems and databases. I think what is important is the fact to understand that over time they're going to get more. Okay, so trying to take all that data perhaps and put it into one store, well, you're probably out of date. So the approach that we take would be to create a federated view of that data, and use what we call graph technologies to do the analysis around that. So think of your data sitting in situ, and I'm then looking for all instances of Ali Patterson, and therefore I might find Alistair Patterson, I might find Ali Petterson, or whatever it might be. I can use the technologies, the matching engines, the reference data we have to actually resolve that into Alistair Patterson, and then that is a virtual view of you. So it's using that kind of technology, which is very, very fast and easy to do compared to traditional methods. If you think about all of the data you might hold within your organization, there might be bits of data in a spreadsheet somewhere or wherever it might be. But clearly what you're after is the data that you're using and changing on a regular basis. From your different transactional systems. And as I said, that's what we affect, is to be able to call. So for instance, in the example of GDPR, Ali Patterson comes to my bank and says, what do you know about me? Well, we can very quickly then create that virtual view of Alistair Patterson, which is up to date, because it's not a copy of the data, it's the real data. And then say, Alistair, we're holding this data in these 4 different areas, in marketing or in finance, for these particular reasons. You've given your consent for this, but this is actually legally consented because you have an insurance contract with us, or whatever it might be. At the end of the day, as a bank, you're looking at long-term relationships. It's not, you want not only sort of Alistair Patterson as your customer, but you want Alistair Patterson's wife and his children and his grandchildren, etc., etc. So you're looking at long-term relationships. So it's all about using that single customer view for the best interests of the customer, not short-term interests.
So the customer reaction has been really positive. You're always going to have some wrinkles, but overwhelmingly the feedback across social media, through our customers in our stores, and through the App Store has been really, really positive. And I'd like to think that's because we actually talk to our customers, and therefore it's not a surprise that they're pleased, because fundamentally we're delivering the things that they've asked us to do. In terms of the challenges, we've effectively, the reason it's a new app is it's a brand new digital platform, and it's the digital platform that we built our internet banking capability on last year. So again, MetroBank is trying to make sure that we build a technology stack that is reusable. I think in terms of the challenges, we adopted an agile methodology, and that agile methodology bled across large parts of the organisation. And so it's quite difficult. Humans are creatures of comfort. They like to do things that they've done previously. So to push the boundaries and start to adopt a more agile approach across product, proposition, change, IT, it was really difficult for the organisation to understand how to adopt those, but I'm really pleased to say that they absolutely grasped it with open arms. So the overall programme took around about 9 months. We had a number of sprints. We did a Kanban style methodology, but what was really clear was that we were working with our customers throughout the process. So when we felt we had something that was an MVP, so it was a minimum viable product, we'd be talking to our customers to make sure that it improved the experience that they had on a daily basis and that it served a particular need. What we were really trying to avoid was building redundant services or redundant products and effectively rebranding it as a new app to find out that people weren't using it. And actually, we've seen that the adoption has been really high, and increasingly more transactions are going through our mobile channels. So the whole design was centered around simplicity and convenience. I think we'd probably been slightly guilty of building some capabilities, and our registration process being a great point, that actually it probably wasn't designed as optimally as it could have been. And what we wanted to do was build a set of services, or a registration service, that was really simple. We took something from 9 pages down to 3. We minimise the number of data entry that the customer needs to do. And also, as part of that, the unequivocal feedback from the market was that customers want really frictionless authentication. So Touch ID is something that all of our customers were saying, when are we going to get this? So we made sure that when we were building our authentication protocol, that Touch ID was a fundamental component.
The way that I like to think around service is that they're not separate channels, right? They are just different ways that a customer can contact us, and then they'll receive the great service they deserve when they get through to us. And whether that is through web chat that they've initiated through our website, whether they've come through on voice, you're going to get through to the same highly skilled, highly capable employees that care. And that's kind of the main thing. And I don't want to think that this is just about technology, because at the end of this, there is usually an employee that cares deeply and whose job it is to provide great service. If I take some really good examples of that, how we can make them work together, we implemented video technology for mortgage-based appointments, which is utilising not just high quality video, but it's a whole experience around it, from the fact that you can have printers by the side that will print out the forms, they can request a cup of tea on the end of the video and it will turn up in the room. It's a whole remote advice experience for mortgages. And that means that a customer who is trying to buy their home, they're in a hurry, they want to get the offer sorted, can have an appointment much quicker because they can go to their local branch, use the video facilities and have an advised appointment with someone that's in our contact centre environment in a different part of the country. So it saves them time, they get a better experience, we get better utilisation of our resources across the different channels. And for me, there are lots of opportunities like Nationwide now where we can just get the different groups of our customer service organisation working in unison.
We wanted to hear from Andy Berry about some of the digital transformation that is currently happening and the new technologies that are becoming apparent.
So if they started off with new customers, the transformation would be straightforward. Their challenge is they have years and years worth of customer data across multiple back-end systems, many of which don't support the digital transformation. So they're just now starting to make investments in key technology as well as changing their processes where they interact with their customers. So I think we'll see some of the challenger banks take the leadership position in driving technology. But the banks we work with are behind the scenes working very quickly. So we're starting to see big investments in a lot of the digital transformations. They take longer because they have bigger systems, they have bigger customer base. The data that they hold on their customers is far more complex across multiple systems. So while they might look like they're struggling now, behind the scenes they will absolutely catch up and maybe even acquire some of these challenger banks and utilize some of the technologies they're deploying. So two key transformations that we're working with our customers on. The first, as we've talked about, is the digital transformation. That is all dependent on data. So the key solution we're working with our banking customers on is around a single view of a customer. So how do you represent a customer? What data is tied to that customer? In many cases, they'll have multiple bank accounts, multiple financial relationships with that bank. And what a customer wants is to be known as one person, and then the ability to see what data those banks are collecting on them and how they can act on it. So one of the biggest transformations we're seeing from a technology standpoint is really that single view of a customer. So what we're seeing is that they used to take the concept of how do I create a database with all this information. That's not achievable with the amount of data that's captured. What we're seeing is technology that links these different systems together by keywords, by key phrases, by address data, by phone numbers, so that you have that concept of a single customer across multiple systems. And at Pitney Bowes, we've been collecting this data for 100 years. We're not a new company into the market, so we have very finite information about people, about their addresses, about the data that we've captured across many different formats. And we're using that to tie together pieces of a customer profile together so that you represent one customer across multiple different data sources.
There's a number of banks that are spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds, but I think at MetroBank, because we've got really new technology and we've got a very clean technology stack, that makes our execution that much more efficient. So I think we do, to a degree, mitigate the risk of spending millions of pounds on quite redundant outcomes. I think the second thing is, because we've got a relatively small store or branch footprint, the driver for digital transformation in our world is not about cutting costs and improving our cost to income ratio. It's about actually delivering digital services that our customers want. And because of the fanaticism around the brand, it allows us to work with certain market segments, whether that's pension companies, whether that's accountant introducers, to make sure that we are genuinely delivering the things that they want. And therefore, I think whilst there is a risk in the industry of spending millions and millions and millions of pounds, I think how we've created our technical infrastructure, coupled with our approach to making sure that all market segments are served, I think we make sure that we deliver the right products and services to our customers. So we still believe that the branch, or the store as we call it, is fundamental to the financial service experience. But what we think is that the digital glue that's wrapped around it is complementary rather than substitutional. And for us, it's about making sure that we build experiences across all of our channels that allow our customers to engage in the channel that they want, when they want, but most importantly, it allows them to move seamlessly between. So that means that if a customer wants to start an application online and complete in store, they absolutely can. If it means that a business customer wants to phone into a contact centre but then go and meet his relationship manager in store, he can do that. So for us, it's making sure that the digital complements the physical rather than competes against it.
Yeah, so AI and bots have a huge potential. We've seen some high-profile test cases of use of bots. We've seen huge potential from AI. But for me, AI it's early on in its development process, and it's also a range, it's a collection of different things. From kind of robotics stuff, which is repeat, and that has huge potential for automating activities, really low-level activities, through to the other end of the scale, which has truly cognitive capabilities, and we can start to do some really smart things to improve customer experience. My personal view is that it will take some real time to mature, but that it has huge potential. We will explore with both bots and different AI use cases to make sure we understand those different value opportunities and that we can respond at the right time and in the right pace.
On the next episode of Fintech Finance, we take a look at organising data with Crown Records Management.